I've been a longtime follower, longtime hater of Bungie. All right, not Destiny 2, not the Destiny 2 community, not the employees that make Destiny or Destiny 2. I think that the employees and the community are by far some of the coolest people on the face of the earth. But I will say that I've been following Bungie's downfall since before college. I'm a giant Halo fan. I loved all of the Halos that Bungie created. I just am a huge fan of Bungie until Destiny. And I'm going to show you where things went wrong and how it's starting to bite them in the ass. Without further ado, let's get over there, shall we? So the drama is this, that Bungie, after last year they laid off, I think 400 people. Check me on my numbers. But today, July 31st, they released that they are going to be getting 220 more roles off, and they're eliminating around roughly 17% of the studio's workforce. Now, the problem is this: Pete Parsons, who is the CEO of Bungie, and Pete Parsons, it has some problems. Okay, the reason this is even drama in the first place, the reason this is even drama at all, is because Bungie has been super mismanaged for a very long time, and they got bought out by Sony, right? And basically what's been coming out now is that a bunch of these former Bungie employees are saying it's just been mismanaged. Like, they're broke. They've been broke. And even some of the biggest people who have been a part of the company for over a decade are now being let go. Like, Luke Smith is been basically on every single Destiny 2 release, marketing effort. Like, he is like the guy. He's like one of the faces of the company, and he's now gone. So how did this all start? Why did this all begin? We have to go back. And basically what this person says here, this is August, so this came out yesterday, okay? Former Bungie worker claims the studio faced insolvency without Sony acquisition. And so I was like, how is a company who's netting $200 million in average revenue, was bought out for over $1 billion by Sony, how are they insolvent, right? What's happening here? We got Bungie at the top, right? They own a bunch of IPs. The biggest one at the moment is Destiny 2, right? And they've also got some other stuff in the works, and they were bought out by Sony. So this seems easy peasy, but where did the money go? When a company gets a big injection of cash flow, right, you would suspect that the company would be able to keep the money, right? They would say, okay, I got over $1 billion, right? And that's for a buyout by Sony, by a large corporation is buying them out. And so why the layoffs, Bungie? Why the layoff? Why? What is going on? Okay, so now we get into it. Sony acquired the studio for $3.6 billion with a B. And so they're saying that in the wake of Wednesday's layoffs, a source described as well-connected former employee worker, right, the claim that Bungie faced dire consequences if the acquisition hadn't happened. So it's alternate history in insolvency. What's going on with that? So, but the problem is, apparently, Destiny and Destiny 2 were supporting too many projects on other platforms. So one of the biggest things they're saying here is the reason that people were impacted 17% was because the final shape didn't do as well as Lightfall. And so because of that, they really needed a big win. That was the problem. Lightfall sold really, really well. For all intents and purposes, if you like Lightfall or not, it doesn't matter. It sold really, really well. So the sales for the final shape was supposed to be much better, or the expectations were much better for that sale. When that didn't happen, here we are, layoff city. But where did the $3.6 billion in acquisition go, right? Why did they just get a huge injection of cash flow and still losing money? Well, plot thickens. Now, if we go back a little bit further, right? This is November 2023. Destiny 2 is missing Bungie's revenue targets by 50%. Let me draw this out for you. So you've got cash. You drop Lightfall. It's good, right? It's good. It sells well. But you miss targets by 50%. Expected revenue. Okay, it's better than the final shape. It's better than the last one. It sells better than the last two combined, and you still miss it by 50%. So that means one of two things here happened. Number one, the expectations were overblown, were just way over the top. Expectations were way over the top. Or number two, they lied. They lied. So let me back up. This is how this works, okay? Let me show you how all of this works. If you are going to run a business, you're going to say, I want to do project X. And I have expectations. I have projections that I think X is going to do Y in sales. Okay? And you'll say, these are projections. The X project is going to, basically wild ass guess, is going to do Y in sales. And then you back up this data, Y in sales, with data points. So, the staff, the marketing, the head count, how much you think it's going to be, what do you think it's going to cost, what does something look like when something happens like this. You make these projections. Now, projections in business are just projections. People don't really put money behind a projection, but how do you raise capital for your idea? You have to have projections, and you have to be able to show authority in the space and then a deep understanding of what you're talking about, what you're doing. And then those projections are trusted by investors, and then you make market moves based on it. So for a projection, for Lightfall, for the projection X to miss by 50% is crazy. That is it's not uncommon to think that you're going to miss a projection by 5, 10, maybe 15%, right? Your expectations were way lower than anticipated. Something market shift happens, something crazy happens, but a 50% projection miss is giant. Companies go under and go bankrupt for this type of stuff because it's viewed, right, as unfounded. Okay. Now, unfounded is not the correct terminology, but basically, if you go to the investor and say, hey, investor, we missed by 50%. We overanalyzed, whatever your line of idea was, right? We overestimated the cost of the project. We underestimated how much the marketing would actually work. We overestimate, you kind of say X by Y measured by Z. If you have a project X and you miss by 50%, you have to answer. You have to answer. People are going to be angry, bro. People are going to be angry. Missing by 50% is wild. It's crazy. So let me step back even further. How do you even get these things, right? How do you even get this project, right? And let's just say the project is Destiny 2, right? For example, before you even do that, you have investors, okay? And you have to talk to the investors. And this is how you keep money in the business. You have to talk to your investors and you have to say, hey, investors, everything's good over here. We're doing great. And who talks to the investors? The CEO and the CFO. They talk to the investors. They have to go to the investors and they have to say, here's what we're doing. Here's the projects. Here's our expected. Here's what we're thinking that we need to be doing. Here's where we've lost investment, but we learned this. And so in the future, we're not going to do this. You have to have this back and forth talk with the investors. Now it goes even further. This is private. These are private investors. We don't really know who these people are. We know some, but we don't know all of them. We absolutely know there's an acquisition happening from Sony. But these private investors, you have to talk to them. And they expect you to come with ideas on your projects. And they expect you to have projections on your projects that you are currently working on and give them a return on their investment. And so if you miss by 50%, that's why I'm saying this is crazy. That means giant mismanagement, potentially legal action is going to be taken by the investors to say, where the hell did my money go? And how did you fuck up this bad? Because you're going to now be viewed as untrustworthy. As from an investor, your CFO, your CEO, untrustworthy. Private investors, they talk to the CEO, CEO and CFO talk to them saying, hey, we got these projects that are cooking. We're expecting this much in sales for these projects. We expect this much in sales. All right. And oops, we missed it. We missed it by 50%. Oh no. And now the investors are like, yo, where is my money? Where is the return on investment that I was promised? This is the reason I gave you capital in the first place. And now they're scrambling. Now Bungie is scrambling and they're doing layoffs to save their own ass and say, we're trying to stem the bleeding. All right. They're laying off to stem the bleeding. Okay. So, guys, it gets deeper. Pete Parsons has spent $2.4 million on classic cars since Sony acquired Bungie. Let that sink in. You've got a company with private investors. You got the talk, you got the CEO, the CFO selling a promise that things are going to go well, that the projects are going to go well. Projections are good. Here's what we're thinking we're going to do in sales, the marketing, the data. We've got this shit in the bag. We're killing it. Lightfall was good. We're going to make the final shape. Oops. We missed our projections by 50%. Oopsie daisies. And obviously the investors are pissed. Bungie has to go and they do layoffs. But meanwhile, as layoffs are currently happening, you've got the CEO spending $2.4 million on classic cars since Sony acquired them. What are they doing? So basically, he went to the bank. He's printing money. He's saying, yo, we got this big $3.6 billion influx of cash and we're getting acquired. I'm going to go buy classic cars. He says, we've navigated the broader economic realities over the last year, aka, we've got these problems that we're seeing. All other mitigation options become necessary to refocus our studio and our business with more realistic goals and viable financials. Yeah, no shit, viable financials. You missed your revenue targets by 50%. You're the problem. They're not realistic. You're the problem. You are the problem, Pete. You and the CFO and the board are the issues at Bungie. Because you have made these super unrealistic expectations. You went to your investors and you said, hey, we're going to hit these targets plus or minus 10%. You missed it by 50%. That is inexcusable. And now your head is on the chopping block. But oh no, you've been busy buying cars, brother. Oh, what are we doing here? This is the problem. Because it's not the employees. The Bungie employees are awesome, right? The community around the game for Destiny 2 is amazing. The Destiny community is awesome. There's no more passion, and people support the game because there's passion and there's drive and there's this love for the lore and the story and the crafting of it, and they do a great job at marketing it. But more importantly, like the community themselves, community manager, and the people who make content for the game are awesome. The problem is the executives. I think Bungie's going to keep bleeding money. I think they're not going to be able to go back to this. I don't think they're going to be able to ever put people back in the box. I think they're going to have to come out with a new game, which I think they're hoping for with their extraction shooter. And I hope they think that that's going to work. We've got this bunch of money just put in this giant game, and extraction shooters are kind of like, the numbers on our extraction shooters are going down. So you got a big problem here. If you're Bungie, what do you do? Like, what do you do?